A lot of my audience members have been asking me, SoFlo, talk about prison in the United States of America as far as what it probably is like for, say, a Jamaican who migrates to the US, then gets in some trouble and has to do some time.
Violence.
A lot of blood gets shed.
I don't wish this shit on my worst enemy.
With this one, I'm going to use this as an example. What I want you to see first, though, is I want you to see. First of all, let me say, welcome to SoFlo TV again, everybody. It's your host with the most, almost a minute in. What I want you to see anyways, right, is to have a look at this brother. And I want you to have a look at Granville Ritchie. Granville Ritchie is a Jamaican that came to the USA a few years ago and got himself in some trouble now where he has been given the death penalty. Yes, I killed him, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna hang him. Because what he did was so atrocious. It was to a little girl. We're not going to talk about his crime on this video, though. What I want you to look at is the drastic changes that he went through. So he was arrested in 2014, and 2019 is when he was convicted, because it took all those years to have him in holding, to go through the process, the proceedings, procedure, whatever. And I want you to look at the drastic change that he has gone through as far as his looks goes. This is to give you an insight before I even start to talk about the kind of things that he must be enduring, and a majority of people that go to prison here endure. I'm not saying all people endure it. I'm saying a lot of people do endure this. Let for the record though show that I have never been to prison before. I have been inside of a prison because I went to go visit people that were locked up. I've had family members and I've had friends that have done extensive time in prison. And so I know what the inside of a prison looks like. I know how the procedure goes getting in, doing the visits. I also have family members that work within law enforcement, both in prisons and in the police force as well, as soldier, military. So I am very familiar with the procedures, the strip search procedures, the visitation procedures. I am very familiar with the disciplinary procedures, so on and so forth. With that said now, all right, so I can tell you from his life, he's going to be living in what is called a solitary confinement, because prisoners like these, given his crime that he committed, prisoners like these, especially because he's a foreigner, he's a black foreigner. Someone wants to crack his jaw. Someone wants to break his neck in there. And they get cool points for doing it. They will do it just to get the cool points for doing it. So they put hits out on guys like these when they come in there. You got to understand that there are a bunch of men in here, right, that are never going to go home. And some of them are going to do long years before they go home and end up going home as old men. While they're in there, they have left their wife and son and their children and their mothers and their family out here in free world. So they're very bitter towards anybody that comes in with any kind of charges that has to do with violating a woman, and worst, any kind of charges that has to do with violating a child, right? So people like these, they're usually placed in protective custody, or they're usually placed in what's called CP, or they're usually placed in a solitary cell, which means you are in the cell by yourself for 23 hours per day. You're supposed to be, and I say supposed to be, let out for 1 hour each day. But on many occasions, if they act up, then they are left in there for days in a row. Now, I must tell you that I'm a bit claustrophobic, so looking at this cell, my chest starts to tighten because I can't even think of breathing properly inside of this cell, right? And that's the life that you have to live, to keep you alive, but still keep you locked up. So this person is going to be going to the chamber anyways, the death chamber anyways, one day eventually. Then you have to talk about the different gangs. So if you're a Jamaican, right, and you're a yardie with a thick accent. So you're not one of them that can cover it up, that can switch up the accents convincingly, so people would not know unless you tell them that, hey, I'm from Jamaica, and they'll be like, I didn't know that. You don't sound like it. You don't sound like the other Jamaicans. And then you have to talk like this and say, yeah, man, Jamaica I come from, and them say, whoa, now I hear it. If you're not one of those that could switch it up like that, more than likely, you're going to have to go find your peers and hang around them. Prison is very divided here. You have Latinos to one side, then you have Hispanics, Latinos, to one side. Then you have the whites to one side, and they're usually divided into racial groups that are like Aryan Nation, KKK group, this kind of group, that kind of group. So there's no love for you there. Anyways, and then you have the Black American groups are usually broken down into gangs or by religion. So you might have a Christian group that studies the Bible and prays together, but they might not want to deal with you because of your crime or because you're in segregation. They can't get to you anyways. Then you have the Muslim groups, Islam, and then of course you have the gangs, Bloods, Crips, Vice Lords, whatever the different gangs are inside of the prison institution. So to put it mildly, you are a small fish in an ocean, and there are sharks and whales in here that snack on you and your type. So just looking at this brother and the changes that he's gone through, how withdrawn his face looks, how much weight he's lost, how worried he looks like it is taking a toll on him already. Inside the prison system, there is nothing you can really do on your own. I remember my family members used to say, well, one particular family member, after I went to visit twice, he said, don't come visit me no more. And he was doing a 10-year bid. He said, don't come visit me no more, because every time you guys come to visit me, I have to go through the strip search. And I don't want to go through the strip search stuff. And strip search, of course, is where you're asked to take your clothes down, pull your pants down to your ankles. You take your shirt off or lift your shirt up. You're asked to bend over. You're asked to squat. You're asked to reach behind yourself with both hands and pull your butt cheeks apart so another man can shine a flashlight up in your bum hole. Then you are asked to bear down as if you're taking a poop to see if anything slides out. And believe it or not, that's a very accommodating place for a lot of guys. Guys have put all kinds of stuff in there. If you can imagine a guy putting it's called keistering. Go look up what keistering is.
Had to get it on my lonely. Was nobody there for me. Had to get it by myself. Ain't nobody wanna help. Had to get it on my lonely. Was nobody there for me. Had to get it by myself. Ain't nobody wanna help. Had to get it on my lonely. Me, myself, and I. Was nobody there for me. Nobody on my side. All they ever told me was about how they gon' ride. Took a while for me to see that they was lying. Had to get it on my lonely. Me, myself, and I. Was nobody there for me. Nobody on my side. All they ever told me was about how they gon' ride. Took a while for me to see that they was lying. Did it by my lonely, I ain't take no handouts, I ain't do it then, so really I be damned now. You ain't give me nothing, so why you got your hand out? Bro, put your hand down. No, I ain't playing around. They said I wouldn't make it, that I should lay it down. Now I feel like the greatest, you should hear what they saying. Now all the people who left when they got hard eventually came around. I ain't the same, and ain't no way back in the way around. Had to get it on my lonely, was nobody there for me. Had to get it by myself. Ain't nobody on my lonely. Me, myself, and I. Was nobody there for me. Nobody on my side. All they ever told me was about how they gon' ride. Took a while for me to see that they was lying. Had to get it on my lonely. Me, myself, and I. Was nobody there for me. Nobody on my side. All they ever told me was about how they gon' ride. Took a while for me to see that they was lying.
Okay, guys have put things like a whole cell phone up in there. They put their drugs in there. They put their shanks in there. So you can imagine getting in a fight and a guy goes into his bumhole, pulls out, squats down, pushes out, and pulls out a dirty shank and starts stabbing you with it. The infections, right? It's a whole different world inside of this world. Let's talk about, let me see. I'm trying to remember all the points to hit so you get a very good idea, because I'm trying to paint a picture for those of you who are naive or just don't know. So let's talk about, you're not allowed to walk a certain way. You're not allowed to run unless you're told to run. You have to walk a line when you're inside the building. And when you're outside on the rec yard, you are towered over by guards in a shot tower. Inside of the tower, these guards are armed with shotguns that carry real bullets, and they're also armed with rubber bullets. So you have lethal and non-lethal force. If something happens where, say, the guards are in the tower, it's daylight, and they see blood being drawn, they will take a lethal shot and fire into that crowd. Many riots have broken out in these prisons where the inmates are tired of this kind of living and abuse. Let's not forget, there are guards in these prisons that are homosexual guards. So men who go in and are not homosexual are sometimes preyed upon, if you're weak, by these guards. And the guard has the power to move you all hours of the night. And they can take you to sections of the prison where there are no cameras. The same thing that happened to females, to the women. There are male guards working in female prisons that have relations with the female prisoners. And some of the female prisoners are down for it because she's doing a long time, a long stretch. And, you know, she wants the touch, the feel of a man, the intimacy of a man. And she will never have that until she's free. There are a lot of homosexual relationships that go on in there. And as far as I've been told, there are more consenting than they are forced. So there are a lot of people that live a straight life on the outside, but once behind those walls, they conform, right? Now, let's talk about the confinement. Let's talk about what it does to the mind. So studies have shown that solitary confinement, which is one of the punishments, solitary confinement actually damages the human mind, because humans are created to be beings that want to be touched, that feel good when we are touched, that hug, and we gain power from hugging each other. We gain strength from hugging each other. We are social beings. So when you are cut off, it's called a sensory deprivation. And a sensory deprivation causes the mind to start breaking down. Many of men have gone into complete psychosis and have to be medicated with mind medications once they are in there. Again, I had a family member, very close family member, who did time and had to be medicated while he was in there. And he told me when he got out, I said, "Are you all right in the mind?" And he said, "I'm sane now. I was not sane when I was in there." It got to a point where I used to doo-doo in my hand and sling it at the wall. And I would sling and I would use it to write on the wall. And I'm looking at this family member and I'm saying, damn, this person, he does not look like the type of person that would do this. So it gave me an insight as to the level of madness that you are driven to once you're placed inside this place. You know, it's funny, right? Off topic a little bit, but it's funny how modern day music, pop music / rap music or dancehall music glorifies badness. They glorify prison time. As if when you go to prison, you come out a gangster that you know, tough man that you know, yo, a big man that you know, the boss that you know. The truth of the matter though is, it is a hellhole. It is a hellish ride.
If your face good, you good. We don't tolerate snitches in here.
It is a ride to the depths of hell and back for many, right? And man, for those who survive it, many of the people who do time in prison, they're never the same after they come out, right? So, another thing that I have to tell you about is how they do the time in prison. The time in prison is done like this. Wrap your mind around this for a second. So here you are, right? You're woken up at 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning for breakfast. 2:30 to 3 a.m. for breakfast. And then you're woken up again at 6 a.m. for lunch. And then you're woken up again at 11 a.m. for dinner. Before midday for dinner. And then you don't get anything to eat. And they've removed the libraries and they've removed rec rooms because people used to use the weights in the weight rooms to kill other inmates, bash their heads in. So they've removed all this from the institutions. And what you now have is a bunch of people locked in and the mind is wasting. So of course, all kinds of issues arise, right? Now, let's talk about how this is a total, I'm giving you an idea of what goes on in the system, but also an idea of what Granville Ritchie must be enduring. So for him now, a person that's been placed on death row, so he's going to be, imagine being down the hall from where the chamber is, where executions are carried out. And you see people, because death row inmates are separated from normal inmates that are doing their time. So here you are down in the death row chamber and you're seeing a buddy that you talk to right next door to you. And then a year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years go by, 4 years go by, and then he's gone. And on the morning of his walk down that long hallway, down to where he will never walk back from again, he says goodbye to you. And then you know that your turn is next. Sometimes it'll be only 4 people and everyone is executed except for you, and you're the last person waiting to be executed and you're left alone until someone else from the free world commits a crime and gets sentenced to the death penalty and is placed in this part of the prison with you. Now you have someone else to speak to, but you won't be able to touch this person because you're housed side by side, but through concrete walls, right? Now, and steel doors. Your food is slid to you through a hole in the door, so you barely get to see any light. And then when you're let out for that 1 hour that you're supposed to be let out for per day, I think they shower 3 times a week. You're let out for 3 times a week shower, and you're hosed down like how you take your car to the drive-through car wash. They hose you down, and that's pretty much it. When you're let out for your 1 hour rec time, you are put in a steel cage like a dog, and you can stretch and do some exercises, calisthenics in there and whatever. And when your hour is up, you will go right back into your hole. So it's needless to say that people look forward to that 1 hour out every day. Now, taking the walk and getting to your final destination for, say, Granville Ritchie, for instance, he will have luxury of 1 phone call, and this will be his last phone call where he can call his lawyers to say, hey, has there been a stay of execution? Are you guys able to save me? The phone, there's a phone that sits right next to the bed where they are strapped in. And that phone sits there just in case the governor of the state calls and says, hold up, don't execute him today. We've got a stay of execution. So we're going to be back in court again, battling some more for another year or 2 or 3 or 4. That is the reason why many people who have been sentenced to death in the United States of America, they normally sit on death row for 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years before they are executed. Especially if they plan to fight and appeal until they have exhausted all options and there are no more options of appeal left, right? And then they are executed. They will get that last phone call. So you're going to call, you're going to say, Mama, I love you. I know you did everything you could for me. I just went down the wrong path. Or you're going to call and say, Mama, I love you. I got framed. I didn't do any of this stuff. And I hope you believe me. And they're going to kill me now. And I hope to see you on the other side. Whatever your last phone call is, you're going to get a last phone call. The morning of or 24 hours before your execution, rather, you are moved from your cell, your single bed cell, and you are placed in a cell that is on the same hallway of where the bed is that they're going to strap you into for lethal injections. This cell that you're placed in does not have a bed. This cell has a toilet. And this cell, I believe it has a sink as well. They will bring your last meal to you if you request. You have the option to request. Some prisoners have requested lobster and steak and noodles and something fancy, and they got it. And then they were at peace and they went on to die, right? So a lot of these people, their victims never had a choice. Like in this guy's case, his victim never had a choice about no last meal, you know, but he got the luxury. He's going to have the luxury of having a last meal request. Whether he takes it or not, that's on him. And then they'll walk him into the chamber and then they'll strap him in and then they'll give him a series of injections. And one of the injections will be to paralyze the body. So there is no movement and you will start to feel as if you cannot walk, you cannot get up, but you will be very much awake. And then they'll give you another injection, which is to interrupt your respiratory system. So you will start to struggle to breathe, right? And this was what they were fighting about in court, about it's inhumane or whatever. So one will paralyze you, the next one will cause a heart failure, and the next one will basically put you to sleep and you will not wake up. They will have a doctor on hand. The doctor will test and find out, okay, person is dead. They will pronounce you dead at a certain time and he'll be taken out of the facility to a morgue and be prepared for burial. So I hope that helps you, and I hope someone is listening and thinking while they're listening, and this can be a deterrent. It's never too late to change your life, man. Whatever the road that you're going down that could possibly lead you to this type of a situation, remember, it na mek for dog. All right? Much less human. It's SoFlo TV, man. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave your comment in the comment section below. I'm out. Peace.